Top 10 Best Luxury Cars 2023. 1. BMW i7 and BMW 7 Series. If you need proof of how serious BMW is about staking its claim on luxury car glory, then consider the fact the i7 and its ICE-powered 7 Series sibling will only be available in leg-stretching long wheelbase guise. While the previous 6 generations of the brand's flagship saloons have placed as much emphasis on driver delight and pampering passengers, this all-new model is all about 5-star cosseting and cutting-edge tech. It's the all-electric i7 that arrives first, but regardless of motive power, you're unlikely to lose the big BMW in a crowd. Not only is it a vast machine, but the slab-sided styling and gargantuan front grille also mean that the 7 Series is a challenging, aesthetic proposition. 2. Mercedes-Benz S-Class. BMW may have knocked it out of the park with the latest 7 Series, but the Mercedes-Benz S-Class is still the default option for good reason. It was last redesigned in 2020, embracing digitization more than ever before. In that respect, it has undoubtedly succeeded. The cabin feels reassuringly traditional yet avant-garde, and the scope of the vast displays manages to avoid the jarring omnipresence seen with other manufacturers' cars. Ambient lighting and connectivity are very well executed, and beneath it all, barring 1 or 2 ergonomic shortfalls, resides one of the most materially comfortable and cosseting places to sit while the miles ease by, for driver and passenger. In an age of ever more ludicrously grandiose grilles, the S-Class's relatively subtle exterior design should also stand it in good stead in Europe. 3. BMW X. Number 3 on this list is a double whammy of convention defiance. Not only is the BMW X not a saloon, but it also doesn't have a combustion engine. It came just over a year before the BMW i7, but it is effectively that car, a few inches higher up in the air. It's perhaps marginally less opulent, but having a hatchback, it's also a bit more practical. A BMW like no other, is how our man Greg Cable described the X, the firm's new all-electric luxury SUV flagship model for its I brand. Some critics have used other words to make their feelings plain about the way this car looks and the departure from classic BMW design type that it, and other recent BMW model debutantes, represent. Feel free to make up your own mind. This is a car clearly intended to provoke a reaction. 4. Range Rover. The latest, 5th generation is a very long way from the mildly gentrified farm truck that was the original Range Rover. It is now a fully fledged luxury car, one that trades some of the other entries on road dynamics for unbelievable off-road ability. Under the skin, it's all new, featuring Land Rover's MLA Flex architecture, which has an 80% aluminium construction for lightness and strength. Torsional rigidity is up 50% over the old car. In combination with finely honed air suspension, 48 volts active anti-roll bars and the availability of 4-wheel steering, this Range Rover handles with assured precision and surprising agility. It's also whisper quiet on the move and has a sumptuous ride that steamrollers awkward topography into submission. Some of the other cars on this list are even more refined, though. Especially on big wheels, a bit of thumping and the odd shimmy from the body can disturb the serenity slightly. 6. Mercedes-Benz EQS. Mercedes-Benz is taking a rather different approach to its flagship EV saloon from its BMW rival. Where the BMW 7 Series and BMW i7 share a platform, the S-Class and the EQS are entirely different cars. The quiet running of an EV undoubtedly suits a luxury car, and the EQS is quite the engineering achievement. With a drag coefficient of 0.2, it uses the lack of air vents to good effect, and in combination with a massive 120 kWh battery, that helps it to achieve a real-world range of close to 400 miles in Mercedes EQS 450 Plus guise. It's roomy and quiet, and it rides reasonably well, too. However, some of the materials in the interior aren't up to the standards you would expect of a car that starts from over £105,000. The EQSs we've driven in the UK have also come on very big wheels, and they couldn't quite match the best riding cars here. 7. Audi A8 and Audi S8. The Audi A8 is one of the older cars on this list. The current generation was always a bit behind its peers for refinement, and although A8's quality interior feels like it was built to outlast civilization itself, it lacks the sense of occasion of the latest BMW 7 Series or Range Rover. However, a facelift in 2022 has allowed Audi to throw a box of technology at its flagship limousine. While all A8s have adaptive air suspension, the sportier, V8-powered S8 features what Audi calls predictive active suspension, which mixes forward-facing cameras with a height-adjustable air suspension setup that incorporates fast-acting electromechanical actuators at each wheel. Although manufacturers such as DS and Genesis tout similar sounding systems, this one really works thanks to air springs and 48 volts active anti-roll bars. Bumps and sleeping policemen pass by uncannily smoothly. Noise and vibration isolation aren't quite perfect, and the suspension can't smother shorter, sharper inputs as effectively as bigger ones. However, this car represents Audi doing classic Vorsprung durch Technik in a properly committed way. 8. Range Rover Sport. The last Range Rover wasn't a small car, but the new one is truly gargantuan on European roads. Four-wheel steering and straight sides make it manageable, but you might just want the Range Rover experience in a slightly smaller package. The Range Rover Sport shares much with its full-sized sibling, not least its outstanding mechanical refinement and luxury appeal. Where the Sport distinguishes itself is its capacity to control its considerable mass, to sharpen the precision of its responses, and to distinguish itself as something of a driver's car. While it is still an undemanding vehicle to drive, it is also tactile and at least a little communicative. So, if the Sport is a slightly more Europe-appropriate Range Rover, isn't it also simply a better Range Rover? Not really, because some of the perceived quality of its interior materials doesn't quite stack up. And when comparing with the best luxury cars, that does knock it down a few places.